Located in the unincorporated village of San Antonio, which is about 20 miles east of Albuquerque. The building, which we now refer to as the Campo Stone House, is on property that has a recorded history going back to the 1820s. Today I'll discuss a brief history of the property, the process involved in tackling such a project, the development of plans and goals established for the restoration, the status of that restoration, and how the Historical Society plans to fund the work. The property that Campo Stone House is located on has a history that dates back hundreds of years. A Pueblo structure occupied by Native Americans as early as the 1300s once existed just to the south of our property. We've found fragments of pottery dating from the 1300s up to the historic era, and they've all been collected on our site, though we don't have any evidence of related structures that have yet been discovered or documented. In 1819, the land became part of the Canyon de Carnuet land grant. San Antonio was one of the original settlements in the Carnuet grant, and its first plaza was built near what is now the Villa Santa Maria, which is a private rehabilitation facility. We would be located right over in this area right in here. Within several years, a second plaza was established to the west of where the Campo Stone House was located, and that was occupied until the 1850s or so. When Carlos Campo purchased the land in the late 1800s, it said that the perimeter walls of this plaza still stood with defensive gun portals intact. During the Civil War, Confederate and Union troops set up camp near San Antonio. One of the Confederate soldiers, A.B. Petticolas, kept a detailed journal of his time in the war. His entry, dated March 16, 1862, includes a sketch of the village of San Antonio. And this drawing here indicates approximately where our stone house is located today. It shows the corral located near the arroyo by our stone house. Now, the records show one of the first families to receive allotments of land in San Antonio in 1819 was Juan Zamora. He was a well-known figure in the community, running a flour mill east of the Primera Agua at what is now known as Zamora and Zamora Road. After Zamora's death, an Italian immigrant, Carlos Campo, purchased a parcel of land in 1887 from Zamora's heirs. By the late 1800s, Campo had established a store, a saloon, a dance hall on the property, along with an orchard and vineyard. The Campo store served as a post office twice, once in 1907 for 1 year under the name of Kemp, which was a variation of the name Campo that the family used, and again starting in 1917 when the Tijeras post office moved there for 8 years. Carlos and his wife Dina raised 4 children in the little stone house located on New Mexico Highway 10. The children were, they were Mary, this is Dina herself, Olympia, Joe, and Angeline. And Mary Campo will come into play later on in the process of acquiring the stone house. Dina continued to live in the house after Carlos' death in 1924. And upon her death in 1929, the Campo family purchased, the Campo family property was purchased by Nulias Flaviano Sanchez and Dulcinea Armenta. The couple renovated most of the structure and converted it into a home, keeping the dance hall for use with community events. The building was included in a short segment of the 1940s movie Grapes of Wrath, showing an overloaded truck of the Joad family traveling down Highway 10 on their way to California. In 1945, the dance hall was destroyed when a car veered off Highway 10, which is now Highway 14 North, and destroyed the building. Flaviano Sanchez died in 1981, and his wife, Dulcinea, or Mama, continued to live in the house until her death in 2003. Now, the property was put up for sale in 2021. Chuck Jackson and his wife, Shelley, noticed the for sale sign, and knowing his grandmother, Mary Campo Silva, or Mary from the previous, from Flaviano and Dulcinea, Mary Campo was born there. It piqued Mr. Jackson's interest, and he researched the property, purchasing it in October of 2021. felt it important to have the site preserved, so he approached the East Mountain Historical Society with an offer to donate the land and buildings with the condition that it was to be restored and renovated. In March 2023, the East Mountain Historical Society assumed ownership of the site and began the monumental task of restoration. The site encompasses a total of a little over 1/2 acre, bounded by New Mexico State Highway 14 north and Sequilo Road on the south. A rock wall surrounds the property on the west, south, and east sides. It should be down around this area and over into here. This is New Mexico 14 over here. The Sanchez house, which was the converted Campo property, has 5 rooms and a partial basement. A separate cinder block building to the north was constructed in the 1970s, and that will be removed when we begin our process of restoring everything. Currently, the property is fenced as part of our plan to protect what is there. The Society first set about protecting the vacant property from further deteriorations, erecting a perimeter fence and covering the deteriorating roof. The Board of Directors then set about establishing a restoration and adaptive reuse plan for the property. This plan includes the following: documenting and evaluating existing conditions of the structures, an historical assessment, basic architectural programming, and development of a site master plan, which will indicate concepts for renovations and additions. To date, the Society has enlisted expertise from architects, engineers, archaeologists, building contractors, historians, and personnel from the University of New Mexico. Documenting and evaluating existing conditions were necessary prior to accepting any donations. Joel Darnold, a retired engineer, provided an assessment of the main building, drawing on his expertise in renovating old properties. Mr. Darnold's analysis showed the following. The stone walls of the building were found to be about 20 to 24 inches thick. They were stacked and with some adobe and lime-based mortar, and looked to have been built directly on native soil or on a gravel rubble foundation, but they do appear to be stable. The exterior walls were covered with a flagstone veneer sometime during the middle of the last century. Preliminary plans are to remove this and restore the original stucco plaster finish. Interior walls are coated with a variety of mud and adobe-based and lime and cement-based plaster. The pitched roof, which we believe was added in the 1940s, replaced the original flat roof. The interior ceilings are constructed with round vigas that are yet to be determined if they are remnants of the original 19th century flat roof or were constructed when the pitched roof was built. After Mr. Darnold's assessments and recommendations, the roof was covered with a thermoplastic polyolefin membrane to protect the house from further rain damage, using mostly donated materials and volunteer labor. Drainage around the building was an issue, so to prevent further deterioration of the foundation, the area surrounding the house was also graded and sloped. The archaeological historical history of the property was the next assessment necessary. With people having occupied the surrounding areas since the 1300s, it was important to have an archaeologist survey of the property to determine what historical artifacts may still be present on the site. Philip Leckman, an archaeologist with Statistical Research Incorporated, completed his initial survey and is in the process of providing a report on his findings. Historian Rick Holben has researched the most recent history of the property, including land ownership, transfers, land usage, and the people involved and their genealogy. Mr. Holben has located photographs of the site, including the previously mentioned sketch drawn by the Civil War soldier in 1862. He has compiled a detailed history which is available to those of you who are interested. The Society also contracted with Southwest Scanning to produce a 3D scan of the property. This three-dimensional model allows one to have a fly-through viewing of the stone house along with the walls, yard, and outbuildings. To view the entire scan, you can visit the East Mountain Historical Society website at eastmountainhistory.org, and there is a link to connect to Southwest Scanning, and you can view the entire process there. The plan for architectural assessment and programming was spearheaded by Andre LaRocque, a retired architect with preservation experience. Mr. LaRocque developed a request for proposals for the restoration and adaptive reuse master plan. Using the RFP, the Society was able to select the Albuquerque-based firm CSR Architects to provide these services. This will consist of on-site assessment, including civil, structural, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing information. A preservation plan which will include building materials and opportunities for reuse of materials, and a master plan of the entire site will be developed to show the rehabilitation of the structure, the reconstruction of a new activity space addition, parking areas, and to assess drainage and utilities. We're all deeply aware of the need for funding for projects such as the Campo Stone House. Early on, the decision was made to forego attempts to have the project listed on the Register of Historic Places. It was felt the expense and the fact that the house structure and use of the property had morphed dramatically over time precluded pursuing this approach. At that point, the search commenced for grants, which would help move the project through completion. Though there are a myriad of sources available for funding of historically related projects, it's an intimidating first step to enter that previously unexplored minefield. The Society, and specifically our president, Robin Hoffman, began researching any potential source of funding with which to move ahead with the project. We needed to identify what funding was available. Do we do internet searches? Do we work with fundraising organizations? Should we turn around and directly hire a fundraiser? If we go on our own, how do we approach a particular funding source? Is email the best approach? Do we meet them in person? Are phone calls sufficient? Who do we contact to make ourselves known? What are the requirements to qualify for that funding? And what is their timeline for submission of an application? Is it all of the above? Needless to say, all this has resulted in a very steep learning curve and a huge effort by the Society. In a short period of time since acquisition of the property, the Society, thanks to Ms. Hoffman, has made numerous contacts with several potential funding sources. Our most recent award is a $160,000 grant from the state of New Mexico. The Society will receive 2 payments, one in 2024, one in 2025, for $80,000 each. This funding will allow the Society to move ahead with CSR Architects and to develop a site assessment and master plan. We currently await response to another local grant for up to $20,000, which will be used to deal with utilities, sewer, water, and electrical on the property. Though off to a good start, the Society still has a great deal of funding to secure. Completion of the entire project is estimated to run between $1 million and $1.5 million. And once the building is up and functioning, there will be maintenance and operational costs to cover, all of which will require reliable funding sources. These are problems which all organizations such as the Society faces, but we're confident we will succeed. We're going to continue to pursue funding through all the usual sources: corporate, private, local, state, and federal. In summary, where are we at with the renovation of the Campo Stone House? On-site analyses have been made by structural engineers, architects, and archaeologists. Southwest Scanning has completed a 3D model of the site. Funding has been secured and CSR architects have been selected for the development of a site assessment and master plan. An agreement has been reached with Mr. Tom Wines, assistant professor of anthropology at UNM, to perform dendrochronology on the 31 vigas located in the main building. Negotiations are in progress with Dr. Jenny Strum of Statistical Research Incorporated regarding the use of ground-penetrating radar to identify any subsurface structures and possible artifacts. Francisco Uvina and Alphonse Poblaki both of the School of Architecture at UNM have students developing Historic American Building Survey, or HABS, documentation drawings. The site has been fenced, a temporary roof secured, and septic needs have been reviewed. It is the goal of the Society to begin construction in 2025 with occupancy sometime in 2026. The Society feels the Campo Stone House is destined to play an integral and vital part in the lives of the residents of the East Mountains. It will be a repository for the area's history, and through utilization of the meeting rooms, serve as a convenient place for gatherings of all kinds. As a designated welcome center, the Stone House will serve as the terminus for the Tijeras Creek Cultural Corridor and also the beginning of the Turquoise Trail. And it will function as a welcome center for visitors going north or south along the Turquoise Trail. Historical educational programs will be available for all ages, with research opportunities for both novices and scholars interested in East Mountain history. And finally, it will be a permanent home for the East Mountain Society and its archives for many, many years to come. Thank you. Are there any questions at all?